But for Amara the rain felt like a burial shroud. She stood on the sidewalk, clutching a sodden cardboard box. Inside were the remains of a 3-year career, a cracked mug, a stapler that didn't work, and a framed photo of her 5-year-old daughter, Zuri. If you believe that character is more important than a bank account, hit that subscribe button right now. Turn on your notifications so you never miss a lesson in legendary payback. And do me a favor, drop a like on this video and comment humble down below. It helps the algorithm find more people who need to see that being a good person still matters in this world. The security guard, a man she used to bring meat pies to every Friday, wouldn't even look her in the eye. He stared straight ahead as she stepped into a puddle that ruined her only pair of professional shoes. She had been fired, not for incompetence, not for being late, but because she had dared to correct the CEO's fiancé on a financial report that was missing 3 million naira. You're just a girl from the village with a degree from a local school, the woman had sneered, her breath smelling of expensive mints and arrogance. No. Your place. Your furniture. And today I'm throwing the furniture out. Amara didn't scream. She didn't beg. She simply walked out. But as she stood under the bus stop, shivering, she felt a pair of eyes on her. Past the street sat a man in a blacked-out Rolls-Royce. Chuks Okoro, the lion of tech. The man who had just signed her termination papers without even looking up from his iPad. He saw her. He saw the box. He saw the hole in her shoe. And then he rolled up the window. That was the moment Amara felt her spirit break. She didn't know that 3 months from that day she would be the one holding the keys to the kingdom. Didn't know that the man who had just ignored her was about to become the very person who would sweep the floors at her feet. Now, before we get into the legendary payback of this story, welcome to the channel. If you are new here, you found a home for stories where the humble rise and the proud fall. We believe that a person's value isn't measured by the car they drive or the labels on their back, but by the kindness they show when they think no one is watching. Our stories are modern African folk tales, lessons in heart, soul, and the ultimate justice of fate. Now let's go back to the beginning. To the day Chuks Okoro realized that his billions had bought him a palace, but not a single person he could trust. Chuks Okoro was 35 years old and worth $4.2 billion. His company Okoro Nexus controlled the fiber optic cables that ran beneath the streets of 3 different countries. He lived in a house so big he hadn't visited the 3rd floor in 2 years. He had a private chef, a personal trainer, and a fleet of cars that cost more than the village he was born in. But Chuks had a problem. He was surrounded by yes men and yes women. His fiancée, Sasha, was a former Miss Nigeria runner-up who spent $50,000 a month on aesthetic maintenance. She spoke in a voice that sounded like silk but carried the weight of a guillotine. Chuks knew she didn't love him. She loved the Okoro name. She loved the black Amex card. She loved the way people cleared a path for her when she walked into a room. The night after he saw Amara standing in the rain, Chuks couldn't sleep. He stood on his balcony looking out at the city. His mother's voice, a woman who had sold smoked fish in the market for 40 years to send him to school, echoed in his mind. Chuks, she had told him before she passed, a man who only sees from the top of the mountain forgets what the soil feels like. And if you forget the soil, you forget how to grow. He realized he was surrounded by masks. Sasha was a mask. His board of directors were masks. Even his best friend Tund was just waiting for a chance to take his seat. I need to know, Chuks whispered to the empty night. I need to know who is real. The next morning, Chuks called his head of security, a man named Obi who had been with him since the beginning. Obi, I'm going away for 30 days, Chuks said. A business trip, sir? Dubai? London? No, Chuks said, looking at his reflection in the mirror. The $3,000 suit, the $50,000 watch. I'm going to the basement. I want you to get me a job as a janitor at the East Wing Mall. Not our, well, the one owned by the Sterling Group. I want a fake ID, fake history, and I want the worst jumpsuit you can find. Obi was silent for a long time. Sir, you own 14 buildings. You want to scrub toilets. I want to see how the world treats a man who has nothing to Offer them but a clean floor, Chucks replied. And Obi, tell Sasha I'm on a silent retreat in a monastery in Tibet. No phones. No contact. The transformation was total. Chuck stopped shaving. He let his beard grow in. Rough and gray-flecked. He stopped the expensive skin treatments. Within a week, the Lion of Tech looked like a man who had spent his life fighting a losing battle with poverty. He moved into a one-bedroom apartment in a neighborhood where the streetlights had been dead for a decade. He drove a 2005 Toyota Corolla with a dent in the door and a radio that only played static. On Monday morning at 5 a.m. Chuck Socorro, now known as Sunday the Cleaner, walked into the East Wing Mall. He was handed a mop, a bucket and a list of bathrooms that needed his attention. For the first 4 hours, Chucks realized something terrifying. He had become invisible. People walked past him as if he were a ghost. They stepped over his mop while he was scrubbing. A teenager dropped a half-eaten burger right in front of him and didn't even say sorry. A businessman in a suit that Chucks knew cost exactly $1,200 looked him in the eye and then spat his gum onto the floor Chucks had just polished. Clean that up, old man, the businessman said, checking his Rolex. Chucks felt a surge of rage. He wanted to stand up, call the mall owner, who owed him $5 million, and have this man banned for life. But he didn't. He melt. He picked up the gum with his bare hands. Yes, sir, Chuck said, his voice low. He was learning. He was seeing the world through the eyes of the soil. By the end of the first week, Chucks was exhausted. His back ached in ways he didn't know were possible. But his heart was starting to wake up. He made friends with the other cleaners. There was Baba, a 60-year-old man who was working 2 jobs to put his grandson through medical school. There was Mary, young mother who shared her jollof rice with him because she thought he looked hungry. Eat Sunday, Mary said, handing him a plastic container. You're too thin. Man needs fuel to fight this world. Chucks ate the rice. It was better than any 5-star meal he had ever had. Didn't taste like money, it tasted like kindness. But then Wednesday of the second week came. Chucks was cleaning the food court after a particularly busy lunch rush. He was leaning over a trash can, emptying the heavy bags when a woman bumped into him. Oh, I am so sorry, she said quickly. Chucks froze. He knew that voice. It was a voice he had heard in his boardroom 3 months ago. A voice he had dismissed with a flick of his pen. He looked up. It was Amara. She looked different. She wasn't wearing the sharp blazer and heels she had worn at Okoro Nexus. She was wearing a simple cotton dress, faded but clean. Her hair was pulled back in a practical bun. She was carrying a tray from the cheap fried chicken stall. Chucks looked down, hiding his face, waiting for the insult. He expected her to scoff at the smelly janitor who was in her way. Are you okay? She asked. Chucks looked up, surprised. Amara wasn't looking at him with disgust. He was looking at him with genuine concern. I'm fine, ma'am, Chucks mumbled. You look like you're about to collapse, Amara said. She reached into her bag and pulled out a cold bottle of water. She hadn't even opened it yet. He handed it to him. Here, the mall is too hot today. They don't turn the AC up enough. For you all who are doing the real work. Chucks took the water. His hands, rough and smelling of bleach, touched hers. Thank you. But this is your water. Amara smiled. It was the first time Chucks had really seen her smile. In the office she had always been stressed, focused, professional. But here in the middle of a loud, crowded food court, her smile was like the sun breaking through the Lagos clouds. I'll be fine, she said. I have a job interview in 20 minutes upstairs. I'm a bit nervous, so I probably shouldn't have too much water anyway. I don't want to be running to the bathroom mid-interview. She laughed a little, a light, beautiful sound. What kind of job? Chucks asked, his curiosity getting the better of him. Accounting, she said, her eyes lighting up. I love numbers. Numbers never lie. People do, but numbers, they tell the truth. Chucks felt a pang of guilt that hit him like a physical blow. He had fired this woman. He had allowed Sasha to humiliate her. He had taken away her livelihood. Because his fiancée wanted to feel powerful. Good luck, ma'am, Chuck said. You have a good heart. I think the numbers will Be on your side. Amara smiled again, patted his arm, actually touched the sleeve of his dirty janitor jumpsuit and walked away. Chucks watched her go. He felt a heat in his chest he hadn't felt in years. "Obi," Chucks whispered into the small burner phone he kept hidden in his jumpsuit. "Yes, sir." "Find out who is interviewing a woman named Amara Mensa at the East Wing Mall today. It's the Sterling Group's satellite office on the 4th floor." "Right away, sir." "Do you want me to make sure she gets the job?" Chucks looked at the bottle of water in his hand. "No," he said, his voice turning into the Lion of Tech once again. "I want to see if they are smart enough to hire her. And Obi, tell the mall manager I want a report on how the 4th floor staff treats the cleaning crew. I'll be working that floor tomorrow." The 4th floor of the East Wing Mall was the gold zone. It was where the high-end boutique offices were located. The carpet was thicker here. The air smelled like expensive diffusers. This was where the Sterling Group ran their operations. Chucks arrived at 8 a.m. with his cart. He was assigned to clean the glass partitions of the main office. Inside the glass he saw Amara. She was sitting in a waiting area. He looked nervous. She was smoothing her dress, checking her watch. Then the door to the inner office opened. A man walked out. He was young, maybe 30, wearing a suit that was a size too small and a watch that was a fake Rolex. Chucks knew the type immediately. A middle manager with a massive ego. "Amara Mensa?" the man barked. Amara stood up quickly. "Sir." "Good morning." The man didn't return the greeting. He looked her up and down with a sneer. "You worked at Okoro Nexus? Why did you leave?" Amara hesitated. "There was a disagreement regarding a financial report, sir." "Disagreement? Or did you get caught with your hand in the jar?" The man laughed loud enough for the whole office to hear. Amara's face went red. "No, sir. I have never." "Save it," the man said, waving a hand dismissively. "We don't hire disagreements here. We need people who know how to follow orders, not village girls who think they're smarter than the CEO." Chucks, standing just outside the glass, felt his mop handle creak under the pressure of his grip. Amara stood her ground. "Sir, if you look at my references from my first 2 years, I've seen enough," the man said. He turned his head and saw Chuck standing by the glass. "Hey, janitor. You missed a spot on the bottom of the door. Get down there and scrub it. And you," he looked back at Amara, "get out. You're wasting my billable hours." Amara's eyes filled with tears, but she didn't let them fall. She picked up her bag, nodded once and walked toward the door. As she passed Chuck's, she stopped. She saw him scrubbing the spot the manager had pointed out. The manager was literally standing over Chuck's, his foot inches from Chuck's hand. "Excuse me," Amara said to the manager. The manager looked at her, annoyed. "I thought I told you to leave." "You shouldn't talk to him like that," Amara said. The room went silent. The office workers stopped typing. "What did you say?" the manager asked, his voice dropping to a dangerous level. "He is a human being," Amara said, her voice trembling but steady. "He is older than you. He is working hard. You have no right to treat him like furniture." The manager burst out laughing. "Furniture? That's exactly what he is. He's a mop with legs. And you're a nobody defending a nothing. Get out before I call security and have you both thrown into the street." Amara looked at Chucks. She reached down, took his hand and helped him stand up. "Come on," she said to Chucks. "Don't stay here. This place, it doesn't deserve your work." Chucks looked at her. He saw the fire in her eyes. He had just lost a job she desperately needed, a job that meant food for her daughter Zuri, because she chose to defend a janitor she didn't even know. "Thank you, ma'am," Chuck said. "My name is Amara," she said, giving him a small, sad smile. "And don't worry. There are better places than this. I hope." She walked out. Chuck stood there for a moment. The manager was still smirking. "What are you looking at, mop man?" the manager snapped. "Get back to work." Chucks didn't get back to work. He reached into his jumpsuit and pulled out his burner phone. He didn't hide it this time. "Obi," Chuck said, his voice echoing through the silent office. "Yes, sir." "By it." "By what, sir?" "The Sterling Group. The entire East Wing Mall. By the majority share. I want the paperwork signed in 60 minutes. I'll be the mall manager to meet me in the food court in 1 hour. I have a promotion to announce. The manager stared at Chucks. Who are you talking to? You've lost your mind. Chucks looked at the manager. He didn't look like a janitor anymore. He looked like the man who owned buildings. I'm talking to the man who just bought your career, Chucks said. You should start packing. You missed a spot in your desk. I want it clean for the new boss. Amara was sitting at the same table in the food court where she had given Chucks the water. Her head was in her hands. She had 10,000 naira left in her. Rent was due in 4 days. Zuri needed new school books. I'm sorry, Mama, she whispered to the air. I tried. You did more than try, a voice said. Amara looked up. It was the janitor. But he looked different. He wasn't holding a mop. He was standing straight. And behind him 4 men in dark suits were standing like statues. Sunday? She asked, confused. My name isn't Sunday, he said softly. He sat down across from her. My name is Chucks Okoro. Amara's eyes went wide. She started to stand up, her chair screeching against the floor. The CEO? From the Nexus. Sit down, Amara. Please. She sat, her heart hammering against her ribs. I don't understand. Why the mop? Because I forgot what the soil felt like, Chuck said. He reached across the table and placed a leather folder in front of her. I wanted to find someone who was real. I've spent my life surrounded by people who smile at my money but spit on my shadow. I've been working here for 2 weeks. Do you know how many people looked me in the eye? Amara shook her head. 3, Chuck said. An old man named Baba, a girl named Mary, and you. You did something they didn't. You risked your future to defend a man you thought had nothing to give you. It was the right thing to do, Amara said, her voice small. In my world, people don't do the right thing. They do the profitable thing. Chuck said. He opened the folder. This is a contract. I've just acquired the Sterling Group small division. I need a new chief financial officer for the entire East Wing project. The salary is 4 times what you were making at the Nexus. There is a housing allowance, a car, and a scholarship fund for your daughter. Amara stared at the papers. She couldn't breathe. Why? You don't even know if I'm good at the job. I know you found the 3 million naira error in Sasha's report, Chuck said. A dark glint in his eye. I checked. You were right. She was funneling money to her brother's offshore account. I was too blind to see it then. I'm not blind anymore. And Sasha? Amara asked. Chuck leaned back. Sasha is currently discovering that her black Amex has been cancelled. And that the monastery I was in was actually a bathroom in the East Wing Mall. She's at my house right now trying to pack, but the security team isn't letting her take anything that wasn't hers before we met. Which it turns out is a very small suitcase. Amara looked at the contract. Then she looked at Chuck's. You did all this just to find a wife. Chuck's paused. He looked at her, really looked at her. I did this to find a partner. Someone who sees the man, not the mountain. I'm not asking you to marry me, Amara. That would be a business deal and I'm done with those. I'm asking you to work with me. To help me build something that actually helps people. And maybe, after we've cleaned up the mess I've made, maybe we can have a Real dinner. No mops. No penthouses. Just us. Amara looked at the water bottle he was still holding. The one she had given him. I think the numbers are finally on my side, she whispered. 3 days later, the East Wing Mall was transformed. The smell of bleach and popcorn was replaced by the scent of white orchids and expensive champagne. Chuck's had organized a grand reopening gala, and every influential person in Lagos was there. But there was a catch. Chuck's had sent a very specific invitation to Sasha. Read, The Lion Returns to the Throne. Come and claim your place beside me. Sasha arrived at the gala in a dress that cost more than a mid-sized sedan. Had spent the last 48 hours in a panic, but that invitation had given her hope. She walked through the doors with her head held high looking for Chuck's. Expected to see him at the head of the room, ready to apologize for his little experiment. Instead she saw a stage. And standing near the stage was the middle manager. Chucks had fired from the 4th floor. He was wearing his best suit, sweating profusely, holding a resume in his hand, hoping to beg for his job back from the new owner. Sasha, the manager hissed, recognizing her from the magazines. Do you know who the new owner is? They say he's a ghost. No one has seen him yet. Sasha smirked. He's my fiancé. Watch and learn. The lights dimmed. A spotlight hit the center of the stage. The announcer's voice boomed. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the new chairman of the Sterling Mall Group and the CEO of Okoro Nexus, Mr. Chucks Okoro. Chucks walked out. He wasn't wearing a janitor's jumpsuit. He was in a custom-tailored charcoal suit that moved like water. He looked powerful, dangerous, and utterly in control. Sasha let out a gasp of joy. She started to walk toward the stage, her arms outstretched. Chucks, baby. I knew it was just a joke. But Chucks didn't even look at her. He reached his hand back toward the curtain. And please, Chucks said, his voice amplified by the speakers, welcome the woman whose vision will lead this company into the future. The new chief financial officer and my personal partner in this journey, Ms. Amara Mensah. The room went silent as Amara stepped out. She was wearing a gown of deep emerald green, the same color as the water bottle she had handed Chucks. Her hair was styled in an elegant crown of braids. She didn't look like a village girl. She looked like royalty. Sasha froze in the middle of the floor. Her jaw dropped. But you're the girl I fired. You're furniture. Chucks stepped to the microphone. The room was so quiet you could hear the bubbles in the champagne glasses. I spent 2 weeks as a janitor in this mall, Chucks said, his eyes locking onto Sasha's. I watched people. I watched how they treated the invisible ones. I saw a manager who thought power meant the right to insult others. I saw a woman who thought beauty meant she could steal from the man she claimed to love. He looked at the manager who looked like he wanted to melt into the carpet. You're not just fired from this mall. I've sent a recording of your billable hours speech to every recruitment agency in the country. Good luck finding work in a place that has floors. Then he turned to Sasha. She was shaking now, her face pale under her heavy makeup. Chucks, please, she whispered. I was just stressed. The wedding planning. There is no wedding, Sasha, Chucks said firmly. I didn't find a monastery in Tibet. I found a woman who gave me her last bottle of water when she thought I was a nobody. You wouldn't even give me a second of your time if I wasn't wearing this suit. He turned to the security team. Please escort the former Miss Nigeria runner-up to the door and make sure she leaves the jewelry. It was bought with money she disagreed with in the financial reports. The crowd murmured as Sasha was led away, screaming about her rights and her reputation. But no one stepped forward to help her. In Lagos, your reputation is only as good as the hands that are willing to catch you when you fall. Sasha had pushed everyone away. The gala continued, but Chucks and Amara didn't stay for the dancing. They walked out onto the balcony of the mall, looking over the lights of the city. You didn't have to do all that, Amara said, leaning against the railing. The gala. The public reveal. I did, Chucks said. I needed the world to see that the numbers finally balanced. But mostly I needed to see that look on your face. Not the look of a woman who is afraid of her rent, but the look of a woman who knows she is exactly where she belongs. He reached into his pocket. He didn't pull out a ring. He pulled out a small, laminated card. It was his fake ID from his time as a janitor. It had the name Sunday on it. I'm keeping this, he said. To remind me. Remind you of what? That a man who only looks at the mountain misses the beauty of the flowers at the base, Chuck said. He looked at Amara. Thank you for the water, Amara. Saved my life in more ways than you know. Amara smiled, and this time there was no sadness in it. And thank you for Chucks. It's nice to know someone was keeping it clean for me to walk on. They stood there in the quiet of the night, two people from different worlds who had found a common ground in the most unlikely place, at the end of a mop and a bucket. And that, my friends, is the lesson of the lion and the janitor. Your value doesn't change because someone fails to see it. The people who try to break you are usually the ones who are too broken to build anything themselves. Always remember, the way you treat a person who can do absolutely nothing for you is the truest reflection of your soul. If this story moved your heart, if it made you believe that justice still exists in this world, then don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell. We have so many more stories of the humble rising and the proud falling, and you won't want to miss a single one. Before you go, tell me in the comments, have you ever been treated poorly because of your job or your clothes? And how did you handle it? Let's talk in the comments below. As my mother used to say, the sun does not need to tell the world it is rising. The light speaks for itself. Keep being the light. We'll see you in the next story.